So are Democrats losing the religious vote? Is there an anti-Catholic bias in the Democratic Party? Joining us now is Jim Nicholson, old friend. He's a former ambassador to the Vatican, among many other jobs. Jim Nicholson, great to see you. And I'm reading about you in various interviews. But in truth, it would appear the Democrats have an anti-Catholic and anti-Christian and probably anti-Jewish bias. I mean, it's a religious bias. But what do you think, sir?
I agree. They seem to have lost their way, and it's sad. I grew up in a Democrat-Catholic family. I have 6 siblings. All 7 of us are now Republicans. We just can't bear the derision of the Catholic Church by the Democrat Party, and the leaders deride it, and all the others just sit still and don't react and don't criticize. They seem to have lost their minds and their spirits about the Catholic Church and the Democrat Party, and it's sad, but it's, I think, true. I mean, take a look at the governor of Michigan, who openly puts a Dorito on the lip of an influencer while wearing a Harris Walsh T-shirt in a sort of comic format. That's the most sacred act in the liturgy of the Catholic Church, and the Mass of the people is the administering of the communion, and they made fun of it, and I didn't hear any outrage among any Catholics. I didn't hear anything from any the Democrats. They just sit still for it. I mean, similarly, of course, when Harris was suing the Little Sisters of the Poor, whose mission in life is to take care of the elderly. They had a man up there to try to be a judge. She found out, lo and behold, he was a member of the Knights of Columbus, a fraternal organization of over 2 million men whose mission is to look after young people. They give 200,000 coats a year out to poor kids in this country. They have athletic endeavors for them. It's a fraternal organization, and she made out like this guy was head of some radical organization, and the radical was this person from California who really is showing a great deal, I think, of bias, an anti-Catholic bias. And then you couple that, Larry, with her history. I mean, she was a strong proponent when she was the Attorney General of California of the FACT Act, and it passed. The FACT Act said, if you show up at a pregnancy clinic, a young lady who's gotten pregnant, made a mistake, to seek help and try to, save that baby, the law required that they post clearly the location of the nearest abortion clinic. And she was a strong proponent of that. The Equality Act was tried to force doctors and nurses to administer abortions against their religious convictions. There's a real pattern there of this woman, and unfortunately, there's a real pattern of pacificity in the Democrat Party today. I've become aware of some ads that have been run among Hispanic Catholic women, pointing out just how anti-Catholic this team of Harris and Walsh is, and the Democrats, and these people are beginning to become outraged about it. So I think there's there's some movement out there about it. I hope there is, because it's the Catholic Church is about 25-30% of the people are Catholics. A lot of them have been Democrats over the years. My family was, but the party left us, and it's certainly leaving the church, I think, now. I mean, even the Cardinal of New York said, I don't get these people. It's like they're trying to push people away. I mean, Harris decides not to go to the Al Smith dinner.
I mean, the last guy that didn't go to the Al Smith dinner lost 49 states. And by the way, Cardinal Dolan wasn't bashful about putting that out. So, I mean, but isn't this it's going to affect the presidential? It's also going to affect some of these Senate races, isn't it? And one other point here. I mean, this is to some extent common sense. I wouldn't say it's strictly anti-Catholic, but you have this issue where biological men are competing in women's sports. This is the so-called transgender problem. Biological men competing in women's sports, which is going to be a big issue. We're going to have Ron Johnson, Senator Johnson, come in later. Could overturn a Senate seat in Wisconsin, could affect the outcomes in Montana, could affect the outcome in Texas. We were talking last night here on set. I mean, this stuff, it just seems like these Democrats, not every one of them, but the left-wing tail wags the Democratic dog. These Democrats don't want any religion whatsoever, Jim Nicholson. That's the thing that's so bad.
That's exactly right. That's the point, is that you said not all of them, but those that are not are being very quiet. You know, you're not hearing from them. I mean, the outrage. Look at the Easter greeting of the Democrat Party this past year was a greeting about transgenderism. The Easter greeting of the Democrat Party. They cannot face the fact that people do not like this liberal, woke, radical agenda. Look at Waltz in Minnesota. I mean, he mandated that they have sanitary napkins in the boys' bathrooms in high schools in Minnesota. And I mean, this is going on. People
it's not right.
Can't and shouldn't sit still for this any longer.
Anyway, Jim Nicholson, thank you, sir. It's been a while. Appreciate you coming on very, very much. Godspeed.
Good to see you, Larry.